In Cincinnati, Ohio, 1955, my aunt and godmother, Kathy Ryan, was born the fourth of 6 children. In her Catholic Irish family, she remains the only girl to this day. She went to school and grew up in Cincinnati, eventually getting her degree as a clinical psychologist at Syracuse, New York. She then moved back to Columbus, Ohio, and treated patients at a psychiatric ward for a number of years. After that, she moved on to private practice where she saw a number of teenagers and finally ended up working as the Director of Counseling Services at Otterbein University of Ohio. Unit 5, Voices of Friendship. When my aunt was in grade school, she and her best friend, Beth Painter, were as close as 2 girls could be. They rode to school together, went on double dates, and stayed together all throughout high school. After hesitantly splitting up to attend different colleges, the two remained apart for several years. After a while, Beth reached out to my Aunt Kathy for their 40th high school reunion, and the two have kept in contact ever since. After Beth lost her husband unexpectedly and her kids moved out, she moved back to Ohio and lives in the same neighborhood as my Aunt Kathy. The two talk almost daily, and my aunt always says that she believes God brought them back together so she could help Beth through her tough times. I compared Kathy and Beth's relationship to that of Mary and Elizabeth. While both pairs of women remained apart for some time, they never lost their sincere friendship. While Mary and Elizabeth helped each other throughout their pregnancies, my aunt helped Beth through the death of her husband, and Beth helped my aunt through her rattling change of profession. When I asked my aunt for her view on the art of friendship, she responded saying, "I think people make all the difference in your life, and once you find someone who loves you and you trust, they are going to make your life full of joy forever. Don't let them go." Unit 4, Esther. My aunt was working in Cincinnati for a financial holding company, similar to a bank. She was making a ton of money and was working a lot. She called it a peach of a job. She worked for the president as his administrative assistant, and every morning she parked in her very own parking spot. The guards would greet her at the door, and she would take a private elevator up to her office. She would be served a glass of water with the company logo etched in, all before she could even get her coat off. Despite working the perfect job, she still felt like she was living a self-centered life. Therefore, she quit and went back to school for 5 years and became the psychologist that she is now. Despite being broke for a few years, she never regretted her decision because she got to help those who she believed needed it. She told me she knows deep in her heart that this was what God had called her to do. My aunt relates to Esther because both women risked their comfortable positions to help others. Esther risked her life and position as queen by pleading for the lives of the Jews. While my aunt hadn't risked her life, she threw away her comfortable livelihood in order to pursue a profession that better helped those around her. Unit 3, Voices of Courage. A number of women in my aunt's city have given in to drug addiction. When women are prosecuted for drugs in her city, they are sent to a 3-year-long treatment program called Amethyst House, which includes housing, education, and therapy. Most of these women have lost custody of their children, but still try to turn their lives around and get steady income jobs in order to be a part of their lives again. My aunt has been working at this organization since 1993. She works with a group of women during cooking classes, therapy sessions, and she celebrates with them when they finish schooling and get their diplomas. They have gatherings where they talk about faith and the meaning of life, and even some special days where they just pamper themselves. I likened my aunt to Malala because, like Malala, she stood up for the woman in her society and helped them in bettering themselves. Malala stands up for the rights of women to be educated and nearly died for it. My aunt helps the women around her in sobering up and receiving education in order to rebuild their lives and their families. Both women are outstanding examples of people standing up for and helping those around them. When my Aunt Kathy's brother and my Uncle Bob left home to attend school at Stanford University, he suffered through a lot of homesickness. He often wrote my aunt about his nervousness of being all alone so far from home. My aunt decided to write him every single week for the entire first year he stayed at Stanford just to remind him that his family was cheering him on. She sent him care packages to make him laugh and helped remind him of his own strength and independence as he made a life for himself there. I related her to Miriam. Miriam watched her brother, Moses, as he was sent down the river and eventually became the son of the Pharaoh's daughter. Like Miriam, my aunt watches her younger brother grow and protected him on his path to get a degree at Stanford. Her weekly letters were like her checking up on him, just like Miriam did for Moses as he floated down the river. Unit 8, A Voice for Women Today. Currently, my aunt is the Director of Counseling Services at Otterbein University. She works closely with her college students. Working with young adults who are under a lot of stress, sometimes they deal with suicidal thoughts, depression, or anxiety. The threat always looms that harm may come to the student, and it is necessary to address it directly. While some people are uncomfortable with the idea of talking about this possibility, my aunt takes the responsibility of asking the student whether they are thinking suicidal thoughts. If the student says yes, the easy thing would be to cart them off to the hospital, but rather than neglecting her students, my aunt asks the faculty or friend of the student to bring them to the counseling center. There, she talks to them and helps put a plan in place. She talks them through their problems and meets with these students daily until they are strong enough on their feet that they feel safe, and even then, she meets with them still. My aunt has saved several lives and dedicates her life to helping students feel safe in their own skin. I think my aunt resembles Helen Keller because they both play an active role in helping people with disabilities. Helen Keller serves as a beacon of light for those who are deaf and blind, like she was, and every day she proved that it was possible for them to achieve great things. My aunt, like Helen Keller, helps people see the best in themselves. She helps kids every day get back on their feet and feel their best, and her comforting way with words has quite literally saved lives. Overall, I have learned just how much of a superhero my aunt really is. Growing up, I had always looked up to my godmother as my role model, and hearing her stories has only made my appreciation for her grow. Knowing that she turned down working for the president in order to better service those around her made me want to grow up to be just like her even more, constantly doing my best to help those around me. Her compassion for her peers truly makes her a woman of wisdom, and she helps me strive to be my best every single day.